Okay, time to download the morning podcast before I head off for work. Tighten up the defense? Check. Jay and Miles explain the X-Men? Check. Unpacking the power of Power Pack? Check. Wait, shouldn't there be a new Supersons this week? Let's see. Nope, nothing on their website. Let's see what some light internet stalking tells me. Oh, wow. Can't say I'm surprised, but I thought they'd make it a little longer before Batman caught up with them. Guess they don't let podcasting equipment into Arkham. Well, guess I'll stick with what I have and head off. Oh, there's an email from Dan asking if some of us fellow podcasters can fill in until they find that revolving door that every other Arkham inmate uses to escape. Well, I do have some sick time saved up. And I suppose I can come to the rescue and record something to keep the feed active until those two get out. So, I'll skip work and record a podcast instead. But what to talk about? Now let me think. Hi everyone, and welcome to Supersons, the podcast that helps make the complex continuity of the DC Universe a little easier for fans new and old. In case you're new to the show, or regular and confused by my voice, I am neither of your regular hosts, Dan and Jake. I am, instead, Matt Lazowitz. I use he, him, his pronouns, and am senior contributing writer to WMQcomics.com and co-host of our weekly interview show, WMQ&A, with site editor-in-chief and my longtime best friend, Dan Grote. Unfortunately, Dan has fallen down the Disney Plus rabbit hole and won't be joining me today, so instead I have a very special co-host, my wife, and decidedly better half, Amber Lazowitz. Say hi to the folks at home, hon.
How did you talk me into this again?
Because you love me?
I do, but no.
Because I promised you sushi for dinner afterwards.
There we go. Hi, I'm Amber, arts administrator by day, nerd and foodie by night. I use she, her, hers pronouns.
Now, Amber, you're not really a comics person, right? But you have watched bits and pieces of the Arrowverse with me over the years.
Oh yeah, I like Archie comics, and I've read plenty of Neil Gaiman, and I do still watch The Flash with you every week, even though half the characters drive me insane, and you spend every episode now asking when Sue Dibney is going to show up.
Hey, the Dibneys are the best. But that's a whole other thing. Anyway, it'll be nice to get the opinion of someone who isn't so steeped in what my co-host Dan and I like to call the glorious comic book nonsense of it all. So in the lead-up to the big CW Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, we're here to cover the pilot of one of the shows that will have characters taking part in that crossover. And because I am one of the internet's self-proclaimed leading authorities on Batman, I decided to take on one of the Bat-related shows. But I'm not going to take the easy route of that recent Batwoman pilot. Nope! We are instead talking about the pilot to the 2002 Birds of Prey series that ran on the WB for one season. Well, half a season, really. Launched after the successful first season of Smallville, this was supposed to be the CW's next big hit. It was not. But, hey, DC wanted to raise the profile of the original comic, and so they got this then up-and-coming writer named Gail Simone to take over the book and add Huntress to the cast. So, we can thank the TV show for that. This episode, simply called Pilot, stars Huntress, a.k.a. Helena Kyle, played by Ashley Scott, the daughter of Catwoman and Batman. Helena's mother was killed by the Joker as part of his revenge against Batman, and only learned Batman was her father after her mother's death. She went on to live with Barbara Gordon, who took her in, and wants nothing to do with the Wayne fortune. She is a metahuman with enhanced strength and agility, and her eyes get all cat-like when she uses her powers.
And cats meow in the background, too. Yeah, so next we have Oracle, a.k.a. Barbara Gordon, played by Dina Meyer. Barbara Gordon was Batgirl, one of Batman's partners, who was shot and left paralyzed by the Joker on the same night he killed Catwoman. Barbara has now made herself into Oracle, who uses her mastery of computers to work with Huntress to protect New Gotham.
Dinah Lance, played by Rachel Scarston. Dinah is a young metahuman with ambiguous psychic powers. She has visions and dreams that come true, one of which was the death of Catwoman and the shooting of Batgirl. She also has a degree of psychometric powers, where she gets flashes of what is going on in a person's mind when she touches them. Years after having her vision of Batgirl and Helena, she heads to New Gotham to find them.
We have Detective Jesse Reese, played by the broodingly sexy Shamar Moore, a GCPD detective who, gasp, actually believes there's something weird going on beneath the metaphorical surface of the city. Being that this is a Gotham where the heroes and villains work in the shadows, he's right.
There's Alfred Pennyworth, played by the late, great Ian Abercrombie, the loyal butler to the Wayne family and series narrator. Alfred has remained in New Gotham even after Batman disappeared. He serves as a sort of den mother to the birds, making sure they take care of themselves. Alfred remains the best.
And rounding out the main characters, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, played by Mia Sara, Helena's therapist, and nothing else, just a therapist. Right.
The episode begins with Alfred narrating over a montage of the final battle of the Secret War between Batman and the Joker. Batman defeated his nemesis, but not before Joker exacted a final revenge by paralyzing Batgirl and killing Catwoman. Nope. No problem with fridging characters here. That same night, young Dinah Lance has dreams of these two events, but her mother assures her they were just dreams. But 7 years later, still haunted by them, Dinah takes a bus to New Gotham to find out if they are true.
Meanwhile, we meet Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, as she is now. She is in a wheelchair and working at a Gotham high school as an English teacher. The new guidance counselor comes along to ask her out, but she has to cut him off as she gets an alert that something is going on. Barbara goes to her clock tower headquarters where she operates as Oracle and reaches out to Huntress, who does not respond. Helena is in court-appointed therapy for her anger issues with her as-yet unnamed therapist.
Back with Dinah, we see a boy she met on the bus, Jerry, give her his address. And he is giving off a bunch of really skeevy vibes that she's not picking up at all before he leaves. Dinah then sees a man run into traffic and get hit by a truck. She rushes to him and touches him, and is pulled into his head, seeing a vision of rats coming to kill him. Coming out of the psychic vision, he mutters something about beneath the phoenix before dying, and she sees a man in that foolproof comic disguise of a trench coat and a fedora before he too disappears. Dinah is interviewed by Detective Reese of the New Gotham PD, who talks to his partner about all the weird stuff Reese believes is happening in the city that no one else seems to believe in.
Barbara's meeting Helena at her job as a bartender, telling her that she needs to be more involved in her work as a vigilante. Barbara claims a recent series of suicides are in fact murders, which Helena doubts. At the end of her shift, Helena puts on a necklace with a communicator and heads out to patrol. She finds Dinah being attacked by Jerry in an alley. Oh, there's perfectly comfortable early-aughts sexual politics again. Saving her, displaying her metahuman powers. Dinah tries to tell Huntress about her vision, but Huntress doesn't listen and leaves. Not before Dinah touches her and gets a vision of the clock tower, though.
Back at the clock tower, Huntress and Oracle are talking about the suicides when an alarm starts going off, and they find Dinah in their headquarters. Huntress knocks her right out, and when she comes to, she explains about her powers and the visions she has. She wants to join Oracle and Huntress in fighting the good fight, but Huntress wants nothing to do with it. When Dinah tells them that she has nowhere to go and no home, Barbara lets her stay the night, and when she wakes up, she meets Alfred, who fusses over her and Barbara. When Barbara mentions the suicides, Dinah says she's encountered the most recent one.
Helena returns to therapy, and her therapist is revealed to be one Dr. Harleen Quinzel, shocked gasp, who is acting strange for someone who's there to help. Barbara and Dinah have determined that the men who have killed themselves were all on the board of Phoenix Industries, which is buying up New Gotham dockyards, and there are 2 board members left alive. One is out of town at this time, so Barbara sends Huntress to check on the other. She finds that he has already hanged himself, and before she can leave, Detective Reese shows up and cuffs her to a statue. They banter a bit, and then she escapes the cuffs and jumps out the window, but not before the classic comic book vigilante "I'm a friend" moment.
At the clock tower, Barbara has figured out there are 2 missions left. One is to protect the last Phoenix board member, Larry Ketterly, and the other is to investigate the property Phoenix bought at the dockyards. Dinah insists on helping and going to the docks, while Huntress, who knew Ketterly as a neighbor when she was growing up with her mother, goes to protect him. Dinah falls through a false floor at the Phoenix warehouse and finds a desk with pictures of the dead men. This is the nest of the killer, and she finds the identity of the killer as well. Larry Ketterly. Bum bum bum!
So Huntress has gone to Ketterly's house and did such a good job of stealthing around that Ketterly has found her and invited her in for tea. They chat, only for Huntress to realize she has been drugged, just as Oracle contacts her to tell her about Dinah's discovery. Ketterly reveals that he is a metahuman who can push people to see their worst fears, and that he is a disciple of the Joker, hoping to bring chaos back to New Gotham. Barbara and Dinah arrive just in time to find Helena holding a knife to her own chest. Ketterly's influencing her to commit suicide. Barbara knocks out Ketterly with a throwing disc, and Dinah takes Barbara and Helena's hands, pulling herself and Barbara into Helena's mind to help free her from Ketterly's influence.
Helena's greatest fear and regret is the death of her mother, and feeling she failed to save her. Barbara, now walking in her Batgirl costume inside the Mindscape, gives her a speech about how they need to be together and to save each other. And Helena breaks Ketterly's control, just for Ketterly to attack. He's back in her mind, and he takes away Barbara's ability to walk, trying to break her. Huntress intervenes, and the 2 fight. Huntress kills Ketterly on the psychic plane, and when they return to reality, he is catatonic, his mind destroyed.
At Arkham Asylum, Detective Reese drops Ketterly off with Dr. Quinzel, who reveals, gasp, big twist, that she is behind Ketterly's plans, and that she is the Joker's #1 follower. Who saw that coming? Barbara and Helena decide to let Dinah stay with them and join their team on the condition she goes to school and trains with her powers, something Dinah enthusiastically accepts. Alone on the clock tower balcony, Barbara and Helena have one final heart-to-heart before the camera pulls away from them into the New Gotham skyline to the music of Michelle Branch. The final image is a bat flying into the camera before blackout. End of episode.
So, I've seen this episode twice before. Once when it first aired, and once when the DVDs dropped in the run-up to The Dark Knight, when they were putting out every possible Batman-related thing that they could. And it's not a terrible pilot.
No,
it's a decent pilot. It does suffer from some early oughtness, though, especially in the effects and the music.
The effects are not great. But the effects are not great.
Especially because this was coming out at the same time as the second season of Smallville, which, while it doesn't stack up too well to the Arrowverse, it's not as bad as this. I mean, this is some near, Hercules Xena level effects with some green screen and the howling cats.
There were choices made.
Yes. I'm sorry, but on our podcast, the one Dan and I do, we like to talk to our guests about their pets, and so we wound up talking about our pets a lot. And I will flat out say that when those lions roared when Helena used her powers, our cat Bess, she was like, "What the hell?" Like,
she was very confused, almost as confused as I was when the show started and it said it was New Gotham, and I asked, what what about old Gotham? Why is it New Gotham?
Yeah, there's no answer. They just went with New Gotham. I mean, it might have been a licensing thing, because I think there was at least one Batman. I think the Batman, the animated series, was running at the time. So it might have been they were using Gotham City, so they had to use New Gotham here. But it could have just been a stylistic choice, which also doesn't make a ton of sense. But
I also was confused that Huntress wasn't wearing a mask or a hood or anything to hide her face.
Yeah, there's that too.
She's very pretty, though, so who would want to cover that up?
I will not argue that point. One of the more interesting things is, since this was 2002, there is at least one notable guest spot cameo here that, you're watching it and you see Jerry, the skeevy guy who, is so clearly setting Dinah up. Like, I mean, he might as well have said, I know a director who, can get you a role in a show. Why don't you come to my place? I mean, real skeevy. And she's so not skeevy. Picking it up at all.
So wholesome.
And you're looking at him, it's like, wait, I know that face. That's Jesse fucking Pinkman.
Yeah.
That is Aaron Paul of Breaking Bad fame as an itty-bitty little creep, way before he became a much older creep in Breaking Bad. Although the best guest appearance on the whole thing for me was the Batman and Joker stuff that you see in flashbacks. It falls into that same effects realm that it's not terribly good. So the Batgirl costume actually stands up pretty well. But the Joker, the voice of the Joker, and the couple of times you hear his voice, it's Mark Hamill.
Yay!
Which, that's just the best. Anytime you can get Mark Hamill to voice the Joker, 2 thumbs up from Matt.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, Dina Meyer is an excellent Batgirl.
Oh, yeah, she does a really good job. And I mean, I've always liked her as an actress, and I'm not sure if part of that is recollections of this from before I was really remembering it, or if I already really liked her and then she was cast in this role and I liked her even more because of that.
Now, at this point, had anybody seen her topless in Starship Troopers?
That was 1998.
Okay.
First R-rated movie 97. First R-rated movie I ever got into where I didn't have to hope they didn't check my ID. Went with a whole bunch of buddies, and then we spent all night playing Star Wars RPG.
Excellent. No, but Dina Meyer's great. She's a gorgeous Oracle. She's a wonderful Barbara Gordon. She's a powerful Batgirl. I wish I had her red hair. And she's terrific.
And Rachel Skarsten, who plays Dinah, is now better known as Alice on Batgirl. On Batwoman. She is the main villain, or antagonists and villain. It's the whole complex relationship between Batwoman and Alice is a thing. But for those of you who haven't seen the show, I'm not going to go into any more than that. But this is this is 17 years ago, which makes me feel very old. And as we spoke about her before, Bess has now hopped up and I think she wants to say something into the mic. Either that or she's just sniffing it because she is weird.
Yes, she likes to rub her face against things to prove ownership. So now she owns this podcast.
Yeah, we bow to our fuzzy overlord and her glorious new regime. Yeah, so any other thoughts on the show?
Can I say no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
No, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah. I mean, there were some very cool moments. One interesting fact, Mia Sara, who plays Harley Quinn, was not their first Harley Quinn. They actually did the entire episode with Sherilyn Fenn as Harley Quinn, and then decided it wasn't working out, so they redid all of those scenes. Both versions of the pilot are on the DVDs. And I still love my physical media and still have my DVDs.
Dang, the whole episode?
Whole episode.
And just noped out?
Yep. It is not as uncommon as you'd think. There's apparently pilots of both Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Big Bang Theory that were recorded all the way through with different actors. A different Penny in Big Bang Theory and a different Willow in Buffy. That they scrapped the entire pilot, all the scenes with those characters, and refilmed the whole episodes because those actors weren't working out.
Wow.
And I cannot remember who they cast, but there's a whole bunch of test footage, not even test footage, like early footage of someone else as Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. Threw that right out, and they got Viggo Mortensen. And we're better for it, because the other Aragorn was kind of a pretty boy, and he wasn't rugged enough. But now I'm going off on non-comic book related tangents, so that seems to me like a good time to wrap it up. Thanks everyone for listening to this special episode of Supersons. You can follow the podcast at DC Supersons on Twitter and supersonspod.com. You can find me on Twitter at MattLaz1013 and our website at WMQcomics.com. I write a weekly column called Bonus Reading, where I look at 4 comics, characters, or creators tied to a theme that drops usually on Wednesday, with a little bit of flexibility depending on what's going on that week on the site. I also write a monthly column about Batman and his world called This Month in Gotham, and a monthly feature called Pod People, where I interview comics podcasters about their podcasts, plus all sorts of other stuff on WMQcomics.com. I'm, as I said, the co-host of the site's podcast, WMQ&A, where site founder and editor-in-chief, Dan Grote, and I interview comics creators, journalists, and associated craftspeople and fans about their projects and fandoms. It drops every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and at our site, which is, one last time, WMQcomics.com. And thanks one more time to Amber for being a part of this crazy little adventure in podcast land. Thanks, everyone!